good people of Headliner Nation? What is going on? Absolutely incredible to believe that we're back into our off-season content already. I mean, it just feels like yesterday that the season started, and we were just here a few days ago doing off-season content, and we've wrapped up an entire season. Obviously, we still got our playoff videos coming out, but hey, we got to talk about this off-season, and I am here to chat a little bit about what we're going to have going on with some free agents, some potential trades going on. There's already the rumor mill out there turning about some big names, specifically at the quarterback position. It could be a wild 2021 offseason. Of course, we will be here to cover it the entire time. So make sure, if this is your first time joining the channel, checking out our content, hit that subscribe button and stick around. Become a part of Headliner Nation today and see everything that we've got to offer you this offseason. We've got draft stuff coming up as well. It's a fun time of the year. We're going to have a whole lot of content for you coming out. So stick around. But for now, let's talk about some perfect landing spots. I've got a few guys that, again, potential trades, some free agents. Where do we want to see them land? Now, keep in mind, this is not predictions, okay? I'm not predicting these guys are going to end anywhere, all right? This is just me saying, in a perfect world, okay, in a perfect world, this is what I think would be the best option for all of these guys. So let's go ahead and jump into it. We're going to start with the quarterbacks, and let's talk about one name that maybe won't even be on the move at all, and that's because of some changes in the coaching staff recently, and that is Mr. Carson Wentz. That's right, Carson Wentz, obviously there towards the end of the season, heads to the bench. Was kind of a crap show, is what we will call it there, to end the season in Philadelphia. But Carson Wentz, what if they decide to move on from him? Personally, I think they should, okay? They've already basically gone with Jalen Hurts, all right? So they've gone with Jalen Hurts at this point, given him a shot. If they really think he's the future, I don't understand why they would sit Carson Wentz, go with Hurts, go back to Wentz. That just hurts. That just hurts, no pun intended. That just hurts the development of Hurts to do those type of things. So in a perfect world, what would happen with Carson Wentz? Well, the Washington football team would get on the phone with Philadelphia and say, yo, we're looking for a quarterback. What would you want? Now, that would be really difficult to pull off. Why? Well, because it would be within the division, and that's always tough to pull off those type of trades. I mean, the last thing Philadelphia wants is Carson Wentz haunting their nightmares for the next several years while he's in Washington. But why would this be such a great fit for Carson Wentz? Well, Terry McLaurin is number one on that list. Terry McLaurin, big-time wide receiver. The guy doesn't get nearly enough credit. And this year, even though we went back and forth between three different quarterbacks at times in Washington, four actually, by the time the season was done, he was still a guy that was able to produce throughout the season. Now, some of those big-time numbers that maybe we would have hoped for, maybe those didn't show up, okay? But he was very consistent at times, very, very consistent. And, of course, Antonio Gibson as well. You've got some really good weapons there on offense that are developing into big-time playmakers, and both of those guys will 100% make things a lot easier on Carson Wentz. Now, Carson Wentz obviously had some decent weapons while he was in Philadelphia, but they didn't do the best job in the world of utilizing those weapons around him. And I think in Washington, they'd be able to do that. And not only that, but they have a great D on the other side of the ball, which will allow to take some of that pressure off Carson Wentz. You know what? If you go make a mistake, it happens. We've got a D that can get the ball back for us and stop the opposing offense. And of course, you can take advantage of, probably the weakest division in football right now. So, will Washington try to make that move? Probably not. Again, it's really going to be hard to make that move. But Carson Wentz going to Washington would be an absolute perfect scenario for him, for Washington, and then honestly, also for Philadelphia. They need to move on from that mess that they've created and just give Jalen Hurts the reins and say, boy, it's up to you. Go get it, my man. You've got this. Take us to the promised land. What about another quarterback that's name is coming up in a lot of trade rumors right now? Mr. Deshaun Watson down in Houston. It's going to take a whole lot to get Deshaun Watson, okay? So who's the team that can get that done? Well, a couple of weeks ago, I actually tweeted this, and I got some feedback like, that doesn't make any sense. And then all of a sudden it comes out that maybe they could be potential suitors, and that's the Miami Dolphins. Miami has the draft capital to pull off that type of a trade to bring Deshaun Watson down to Miami. They have got a top 3 pick. They've got a top 25 pick. They are a team that could absolutely move a couple of first rounders that Houston would be looking for, potentially include Tua as well, and then maybe if there's another little piece here or there that would need to be done, then it could be. So that would be number one. Why could Miami get it done? Well, because they probably have more draft capital to make it work than anybody. They've got a young quarterback as well to put into the deal. And there is a robust free agent wide receiver market this year. So as of right now, with them sitting at number 3, Devonta Smith seems like a really good guy to go grab coming out of Alabama. If you grab Smith, he is that other weapon to go on the other side of Parker. If you give up that pick, obviously you're not going to have that, but you have a robust free agent wide receiver market that you could go make some moves if you wanted to. If you don't want to sign one of the top guys, say you do bring in Watson, go get yourself Allen Robinson. But you could bring in a Kenny G. You could bring in a Juju. And if you don't want to spend that type of money, maybe you go get a Will Fuller instead. Also, this is a team that is really close to win now. Heck, they were win now this year. But you saw some of the struggles of Tua. You saw some of the, he's been out for a while, missed a whole lot of the back half of that season the year before, didn't really get a chance to really get the typical type of off-season rehab that you would. So, nothing against Tua. I think Tua is going to be an absolute fine NFL quarterback. But if you're Miami and you say, we have an absolute window right now that we need to capitalize on, it might not be worth waiting for Tua to grow up another year. You might go get yourself Deshaun Watson right now. Last quarterback, Mr. Dak Prescott. All right. A lot of us, especially me, was sad to see this man go down this year and not be able to fulfill the excellent start that he was off to. With Dak Prescott, we need to tell it as it is right now, okay? Dallas messed up. Dallas should have signed this guy ages ago, okay? He shouldn't even be on this video, but he is. Dallas, right the wrong, get it done, keep him in Dallas. Why do we need to do that? Well, number one, Dallas, he's going to be familiar with them. He's familiar with the weapons there. He's familiar with the offense. He thrived in it to begin last year. And again, even with an offseason that was not typical last year, he was still able to come out, take over Mike McCarthy's offense, and run with it. He was killing it. So he comes back. He's the familiar face in that offense. He's got familiar people around him that he's worked with. And quite frankly, Dallas needs to win right now. They can't go through another season like they did this year. The best way to do that is to get Dak Prescott back under center. And really, honestly, they need that leadership on the sideline every single game. This is a team that just absolutely imploded this year for several reasons. Now, he's not going to be able to go on the defensive side of the ball and help out there. But they need his leadership. They need it on the other side of the ball. They need it under center. They need it on the sidelines, in the locker room. Dak Prescott 100% needs to come back to Dallas. They need to get that done. Let's jump over to the running back position, and let's talk about Aaron Jones first and foremost here. So Aaron Jones, Jamal Williams, both of these guys, okay, their contract is up there in Green Bay. So what is Green Bay going to do? They've got some decisions to make. Well, I'm going to tell you, in a perfect world, they re-sign Jamal Williams, pair him with Dillon, and Aaron Jones moves on to the Atlanta Falcons. And now, no, don't say, Kyle, you're a psycho. Why would you want him there in Atlanta? Well, there's a few reasons why. Aaron Jones going to Atlanta could be perfect. First and foremost, Arthur Smith, new head coach. Name ring a bell? You know who he is? He's been the offensive coordinator for the last couple of years under Mike Vrabel in Tennessee. Two of the best running back years that we've seen out of Derrick Henry, a guy that just ran for 2,000 yards this past year. If Aaron Jones were to go to Atlanta, you could 100% see him getting not maybe a Derrick Henry-esque workload, but an extremely heavy workload. He becomes that workhorse back there. And quite honestly, there is a lack of talent at the running back position in Atlanta right now. Some of the guys that they have there, okay, Ito Smith, Brian Hill, Quadri Olson, all these guys, they're not bad running backs, okay? I'm not saying that they're bad, but they don't lack the top-level talent that Arthur Smith might need in order for him to run his offense the way that he has typically in Tennessee. He's going to want to probably mimic some of the things he did, and that's going to start on the ground at the offensive line with Aaron Jones being a guy that can tote the rock for him at any point in time. And there is going to be plenty of room for Aaron Jones to run in this offense. Julio Jones, Calvin Ridley stretching the field. You have Hayden Hurst, will be in his second year. If you continue forward with Matt Ryan and say he's the guy to still lead this offense, Matt Ryan obviously will be able to get the ball to those guys. Aaron Jones could be in for a huge year if he becomes an Atlanta Falcon. Another running back to keep an eye on is Mr. Chris Carson. Now, I will be one of the first people to tell you I am excited to see this man leave Seattle. Why is that? Well, you're hearing the name right now from me in January, Rashad Penny, okay? Rashad Penny, he's going to be a guy we're going to talk about a lot this offseason. They don't need to re-sign Chris Carson, okay? They don't need to worry about wasting the cap space. They have Rashad Penny, okay? They've got DJ Dallas. They've got some other guys there that can work into that. They don't need to bring Chris Carson back. So where should Chris Carson go to? I think he should head to Buffalo. From coast to coast, baby. Let's head out to Buffalo, okay? Potential reigning AFC champions, okay? We'll see how this weekend's games go. But he could definitely be a guy to go into Buffalo and help really not, I don't want to say that he's a guy that kind of helps settle that offense, or he's basically a little bit of a missing piece right now. He brings a dynamic aspect to the running back position that they do not have, and he brings a worry to the running back position. Defenses right now don't really need to worry about Singletary, and they really don't need to worry about Zach Moss. Neither of those guys have been that great since coming into the league. I know Zach Moss been a little bit injured this year, rookie this year, but I've said over and over, Zach Moss, I believe, was overrated in the draft this past year. So let's bring in Chris Carson. Okay, why? We're going deep, baby. Okay, we already know that Josh Allen in this offense can absolutely stretch the field. When you've got an offense that can stretch the field like that, Chris Carson is going to have a ton of room to run. And you know what? While he's in Buffalo, they can tone it down a little bit, okay? He doesn't need to carry the ball as many times as he did in Seattle. He can be just as efficient and put up pretty similar numbers on maybe less carries. And they can mix in Singletary and Moss a little bit with Chris Carson to help keep Chris Carson a little bit more healthy. And then also playing with the lead, this is a Buffalo offense. 100% is going to put up some big numbers again in 2021. And if they have some big leads, they might look to Chris Carson at the running back position a little bit more than they did to Zach Moss or Devin Singletary this past year. They will be able to give the ball to him a little bit more, knowing that he is a guy that can tote the rock and be that type of workhorse towards the end of games. Now let's move on to wide receiver. And first and foremost, Allen Robinson, the prized free agent in all of football this year. And we're going to make this 100% simple, ladies and gentlemen. Where do we want Allen Robinson to go? We want him to go to anyone with a great quarterback. I am not going to be picky about where Allen Robinson lands this offseason. I just want him to go somewhere where he's got a good quarterback, please. Doesn't even need to be great. Just good. Give me a good quarterback. Why? He's had Blake Bortles and Mitch Trubisky as his quarterback during his career, and the dude still balls out. He's a 1,000-yard receiver. He's a wide receiver one. He is a guy that can change games. He is a dynamic playmaker, and this dude has had two of the most inconsistent, poorly coached, awful quarterbacks that we have seen over the past several years. Bortles and Mitch Trubisky have been his quarterback, and he has still balled out. And ladies and gentlemen, the dude is still only 27 years old. It seems like he's been in the league forever, and whoever signs him is going to be getting him in his prime. Ladies and gentlemen, we need Allen Robinson to land somewhere this year with an excellent quarterback. If we can get that, oh my God, he is going to have a tremendous season. What about a man that, maybe had a little bit of a negative publicity around him this past year? Juju Smith-Schuster, JJSS. What are we going to do with this guy this offseason? Is he going to stay in Pittsburgh? Probably not. Chase Claypool, Deontay Johnson, they're ready to be the guys there. You still got James Washington there. You don't really need to spend the money on Juju Smith-Schuster when you're going to probably have to do something at the quarterback position. If you don't draft somebody this year, you're going to need to, you've got some guys on the defensive side of the ball you're going to have to pay soon as well. And you're going to have to pay those wide receivers at some point. So let JJSS walk. And where do we want him to land? This might shock you a little bit. I think Jacksonville would be a supremely elegant spot for JJSS to land. Juju, why do we want you to go to Jacksonville? Well, you know what? He could be a great safety net for whatever quarterback they decide to draft. Whether it ends up being Trevor Lawrence or Justin Fields at the 1.01 this year for Jacksonville, he is going to need some type of a safety net. He is going to have a guy that he can trust, especially over the middle of the field on those intermediate routes. Now, Trevor Lawrence is going to be a little bit better off the bat stretching the field than what Justin Fields would be. I think Juju Smith-Schuster and Justin Fields would be excellent together. I think he would pepper the heck out of JJSS. But I still believe Trevor Lawrence will be the number one player taken this year, going to Jacksonville. And you've got some guys on the outside. You've got DJ Chark already on the outside. You've got a guy named Keelan Cole who can play on the outside. Laviska Shenault is a guy that can play all over the place, and I highly expect him to be a guy that's going to be all over under Urban Meyer. But as this offense really kind of brings itself back together this year and forms a new identity, moving Juju back to his spot in the slot where he really thrived in Pittsburgh. He was a guy that was really looked at as being a top-tier NFL receiver early in his career. When the majority of his plays were out of the slot, he could go back there. He could stay there. We saw him back there quite a bit more this season, and he looked a lot better. But let's get him back there full-time for a rookie quarterback that's going to need somebody that he can rely on. And those other guys aren't going to be guys that you can rely on a consistent basis. JJSS would do that. But you know what? He's going to help loosen things up in Jacksonville as well. Jacksonville has not been a franchise that has been looked at as being a model franchise. You know, there's been a lot of arguments between players, a lot of talk of players being unhappy, back and forth between players and GMs and the owner. And it's kind of been a toxic environment down there in Jacksonville. He's going to help loosen that up a little bit. He's going to bring that type of a little bit of a swag to a team that's going to want to form an identity under Urban Meyer next year. And he's going to help bring a little bit of a loosened attitude to that locker room and help get people having fun playing football again. What about at the tight end position? Tight end's going to be a little bit bare this offseason. One guy, Hunter Henry. Now, what do we want Hunter Henry to do? Nothing. We need him to resign in LA. Hunter Henry staying in LA would be perfect for him and would be perfect for us. Honestly, is the grass really greener on the other side? We see people sometimes, think that, but Austin Hooper, he's a guy in free agency. He goes over to Cleveland this year. A lot of people thought, oh my God, he's going to carry that breakout season over. Didn't end up happening. Hayden Hurst. The Atlanta Falcons trade for him, and everyone says, finally, he's out from underneath Mark Andrews. He can really explode. He didn't do that, okay? So the grass isn't always greener on the other side. He can stay there in LA. He can grow with Justin Herbert in Justin Herbert's second season. I know it's Herbert. If you're new here, I'm just messing, okay? It's having a little fun. He can grow with Herbert in his second season and really become that number 2 target right behind Keenan Allen. And this is really a perfect situation. They have a decent run game there, okay? Austin Eckler is a guy all over the field. He can do a lot of different things. You've got your number 1 target in Keenan Allen. You've got a guy like Mike Williams that can stretch the field. Hunter Henry is a guy that can absolutely ball out this year. He was top 10 among tight ends in targets. He was top 10 among tight ends in receptions. He just didn't have a whole lot of big plays, but it wasn't that they didn't try. His average depth of target this year was inside the top 10 at tight end. It was better than guys like TJ Hawkinson. It was better than Darren Waller. It was better than Logan Thomas, Robert Tonyan. So it wasn't that they didn't try to get the ball to him deep. It just didn't work this year. Another year with Justin Herbert, a full off season with him as the starter, knowing that, and Hunter Henry could be in for a big season. Now that he stayed healthy all year, 2021 could be a big year for him. There you have it, ladies and gentlemen. Just a few players, a few key names this offseason and where the perfect landing spot would be for them. And maybe you looked at it and said, Kyle, Sam Darnold seems to be one of the most likely quarterbacks to be traded. Quite honestly, I think he stays in New York for right now. And I don't know if anybody really trades for him if he becomes a starter right away. He could go somewhere where it might take a little bit of time for him to take over. I don't know. We'll see how that plays out. But those are the guys that specifically I wanted to talk about first. But Headliner Nation, there you have it. A lot of good names there, a lot of good information. Do me a favor, if you appreciate the content, hit that like button down below as always. Leave a comment as well. Who are you keeping an eye on this offseason, and where is their perfect landing spot for you? And as I already mentioned at the start of the video, if you're new here to the Fantasy Headliners, hit that subscribe button. Become a part of Headliner Nation today. Ladies and gentlemen, have a great day. Stay safe, stay healthy. I'll see you on the next episode of the Fantasy Headliners.